very nice. Are we all ready to start? Yeah, let's go. All right. Well, this is practical shooting fundamentals. So over the next couple days, we're going to go through, well, the important shooting fundamentals right from the ground up. So we'll talk about grip, target focus, target transitions, movement, stance, blah, blah, like all the things that you need to know as far as shooting well. We have two bays here, this one and another one. The plan is this morning we'll start with like single person to a target, marksmanship fundamental sort of stuff. As soon as the drills evolve and they get more complex where we're using more targets, we'll split off and use multiple bays, and then I'll shift around, and then like we're just doing that for efficiency. So one bay will be resetting while I'm running the other one. That's the reason why. Like I said, we're going to go through all of the important skills that you need to know. And what I want you to get out of this over the next couple of days is a plan for what you can do moving forward with your practice. Now, I don't think you're going to get a lot better in 2 days. Why might you not get better in 2 days? That's a great answer. Not enough time. Yes, you'll leave here with an idea for what to practice, but the way it works is you can consciously control, I think, one thing that you're doing. So let's say we're working on grip and your brain's all on this and you get your grip perfect and you start shooting the gun really straight. Cool. After a while, like 90 minutes later, we're moved on to something else. And now you can't consciously control that anymore, and you're just going to revert to what you were doing. That's okay. That's just the way it works, but it's just understand it kind of gets put back on you to change these habits moving forward. I'll show you live fire drills, dry fire drills. Like you should understand what's going on, like I said, after a couple days, and understand what you can do to fix it. Aside from the frustration that you can only consciously control one thing at a time, the other thing that I'm going to do is really probably push you a lot. So you'll get feedback from me in two forms typically. So you're shooting a nice tidy group like this. What do you think I'm going to do? Yeah, I'll tell you, come by, go faster. Like you're just proving you can shoot well when you're comfortable. So I'll be like, yeah, go faster. And then if there's something wrong, you'll get a correction. I'll be like, hey, try to do this, but slowing down is not typically a part of it. It's just like, no, keep shooting fast, but try to do this thing. Does that make sense to everyone? So I like to keep your frustration level like at a simmer, you know? You don't want it to boil over, but I don't want it to be cold either. Like just simmering frustration and anger is about the right zone for training, I think. Right. As far as the range, is there any crazy stuff for rules or safety that we need to know here?
Am I good to uncase if I'm an adult pointed down range right now?
I mean, that was my question. No, we can use the side berms. Okay, so the side berms are good safe areas as far as I'm concerned. Is that okay with the range? All right. We can't shoot till 10. Is there any other restriction or anything we should know? No. Okay. That having been said, side berms are a good safe area. When on the line, will either be hot or cold, loaded or unloaded. When I say, hey, load up from that point, as far as I'm concerned, you can handle your gun as and when it's safe. So if we're doing drills like beep, everybody shoots the drill. What I want you to do is manage your own situation. So if you need more ammo to do it again, assume you'll do it again, change magazines, holster up, get ready to do it again. If something's wrong, like, oh, I want to look at my sight, you don't need to ask me. You can just draw your gun as long as nobody walks down range, right? Like common sense. Like you can draw your gun, check it out, like, oh, okay, then put it away, no problem. If something like you need to step away, you don't need to ask, just unload and you can step away from the line. No problem. When we're finished shooting, like whatever exercise we're doing, everybody will unload together. At that point, use situational awareness, like look both ways, like, okay, everybody's unloaded, holstered, and then we go down range and check out the targets. So think about it like that, hot or cold. Either we're up shooting or we're not. And if we're shooting, you can handle your gun as and when it's appropriate to, keep doing repetition. Make sense? Aside from that, we're not going to do any crazy stuff with like safety. As wild as it'll be as people moving laterally, like shooting this direction, moving laterally. That'll be as nuts as it gets. So it won't be anything too far apart from what you'd see in a USPSA match. All right, with that, any questions for me? No? All right, let's get started. Make sure you have belts, guns loaded up, magazines on you, and we'll get going. Okay, we'll start discussing basic stuff, grip and vision. We're going to do a lot of exercises on this and shoot a lot of rounds. Okay, so Pay attention this morning. This is some very important stuff. First, how you hold the pistol is really important, right? That's going to drive you being accurate and consistent. Okay. Now, there's a lot of different concepts that you could, I'm sure you've heard this described many, many times. What I like to do is have it be very, very simple. And the other thing I'll say is I think people focus on the wrong things. People tend to focus on the nuances of exactly which finger's positioned where instead of the big picture, which is like what your hands are doing and how much pressure you're putting on the gun. Does that make sense? All right. So again, I'm not going to focus on the nuance of hand position. I think when your guns come out, your dominant hands for everyone is going to look kind of like this, right? High up on the gun, just like this. This is what I expect to see from all of you, because if you're doing like this is obviously fucked up. This is not right. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to see dominant hands in this position on all the guns. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is the pressure. Now, it's hard to articulate for people how much pressure to put on the gun, right? Because I want to hold the gun so that it's not moving around inside of my hand, and I need enough tension on my forearm that my wrist is locked. So the gun shouldn't be moving like this, and it shouldn't be like wiggling around inside of my hand when the gun's recoiling. So I need enough pressure to stop that. But more pressure than that is not really helpful or productive. Right? Why? Because all these fingers are connected. As I clamp down on my fingers, I lose the ability to move my trigger finger quickly and independently. Right? So in order to shoot fast, I need to be able to move this finger without the other ones moving. That means, in a sense, less pressure is a lot better. Right? Good way to articulate this is hold the gun. I'm not going to put pressure on my thumb, just clamp my fingers as hard as possible. All three of them. You can see how hard they're clamped. Now this is going to be too much. This is overkill. I'm losing a lot of dexterity in my trigger finger. I'll release my middle finger. This is kind of fun. Up until I get it off the gun. So kind of flip the bird and then put my middle finger back on the gun without changing the pressure. And this is about right. So there's some pressure on these fingers to keep it on the gun, but it's not like I'm clamping onto the gun as hard as I can. I'm just holding it so it won't move. Okay. Now with your support hand, again, we want to hold onto the gun, connect to it. So it's consistent and repeatable, and the gun's not sliding around inside of my hand. So you got to make sure you make contact with the frame of the gun, clamp onto it, and hold. I think the easiest thing to do is index off the trigger guard. So I run my hand into that spot. You can say I have tape there already. Run my hand into that spot and clamp onto the gun. Now, does it matter how hard you hold your fingers? Like my own fingers, does that matter? Come on, shout them out when you know them, guys. No, that does nothing for you. You need to connect to the gun. So you see a lot of time people like holding the gun pretty far forward like this and holding their own fingers, but not really connected to the gun. And this is a lot of effort that doesn't accomplish anything, right? Again, I just want to hold with my dominant hand, clamp my support hand down there. And again, so nothing is moving. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, what we want, like, I think the hardest thing for people to wrap their head around is the philosophy of like what you're trying to accomplish by holding the gun this way. Now, intuitively, you think you're trying to stop the gun from rising up, right? It's okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. I started shooting. It's like, oh, I need to stop the gun from recoiling, stop it from rising up. I don't think that's the best way to think about it. Instead, I just want to hold on to it consistently, and I want it to come back to the same spot predictably, so it's not moving around that much. I think I'm going to need hearing protection, right? All right, I'll be right back. We're going to grab some. I'll make an example for you quick. I want you to watch my gun here. I'm not even going to shoot into the target. I'll just shoot the bird next to it. All right. If I use a lot of muscle, so I'm going to get everything in my body really tense, 100% with my hands, roll my elbows out, and clamp onto the gun as hard as I can. Watch how much the gun recoils up. Okay, it was some amount, right? Whatever that was. But that's not really the way I want you to shoot. Like I said, all this tension, you could tell when I started trying to pull the trigger, I couldn't pull it quickly because I was so tense on the gun. All right, instead, I'm just going to hold the gun, make sure it doesn't move out of my hands, add some tension to my forearms so my wrists are locked. That's it. I'll look at a spot. Okay, so would you say the gun moved noticeably more? Yeah, it's hard to even detect a difference. So this is the key thing. It's like you're not trying to stop the gun from recoiling. And with all the muscle that you can put into it, you're not going to be successful with that anyway. Instead, you're going to hold on to it the same way every time, let it do what it's going to do, and then you want it to come back to a spot very predictably and very consistently. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Now, to start off with that, we'll start with this exercise. Okay. What I'm going to do is look at a small spot on the target, that black aiming reference, that's a good spot. I want to focus on that spot, not just like so it's clear, but I actually have the desire to put bullets there. Like that's where I want the bullet to go. I'm just going to stare at that spot, and then at the tone, when I hear that, I'll shoot. And then what we're focused on is just returning the gun back to that spot. We're not worried so much about where the bullet goes. Let me make an example for you. Stare at the spot. So watch what happens with the gun. I'll do it a few different ways. What happened there? Yeah, so that's the concept of, I'm going to push the gun down. That's not right. Let's try it again. What's that? Yeah, exactly. Slow to return. What I did is stare at the sight. The gun went off. The sight goes up. And I'm like, okay, I'll just put it back down really slowly. Again, look at spot. I want the gun to return to the spot. I just keep staring at the spot, and the gun will come right back to me. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want it to be. Okay, does this make sense to everyone? So we'll start with this. Just look at her spot, beep, boom. Consistent connection to the gun, firm pressure with your dominant hand, clamp on your support hand, look at the spot, boom. So the gun will come right back if you keep staring at the spot. Okay? All right, let's give it a try. You already volunteered. Yeah, you volunteered first, man. Right here. All right, now we're gonna start doing multiple rounds, rapid fire.
The big go button.
The big green one, it's easy. All right, it'll be similar to the last exercise we did. I'm gonna start with the gun mounted to that spot. I'm gonna hear a beep and then fire a pair of rounds. I'm gonna do this 3 different ways. So I'll make a few examples for you, and you'll do all 3 of these. I'll remind you when you're doing it so you won't get confused, but I'll start straight up where I'm staring at a spot, the gun's grip properly, so hold, wrap around here, crush, aim at that spot, and I hear a beep, it'll be instead of 1 round, it'll be 2. So go ahead. Easy, man. Okay, that's one way to do it. Now, that's what I judge as correct. You didn't see the gun moving around a whole lot. Now, we're going to intentionally do it wrong, okay? Intentionally wrong means I'm going to stare not at the black sticker, but I'm going to stare at the sight, all right? When I'm pulling the trigger, I'm going to drive down on the gun to make sure the sight does not rise up. This is wrong, but I want you to see what wrong looks like. So let's make an example. All right, now to my perception, the red dot's not really rising above that black sticker. It's not. But is that what I want to do? You can see it clearly, like now I'm driving down on the gun. As to increase the distance, I'll be pushing him down well out of the A zone. It will not be pretty. All right, now to understand grip pressure, I'm going to hold the gun super loosely as I stare at the spot. When I get the signal, I'm going to grip up to the pressure that I judge is acceptable and then pull the trigger. So there'll be a little delay, but I'm going to, this is to make me aware of what my hands are doing. Okay. Okay, so 3 different ways to do this. And again, this is to build your awareness of what right feels like. Now the question is, what should be changing while I'm doing this as far as my grip pressure? Nothing. That's what we want. We want nothing to be changing. I'm just looking at that spot. It's like, let the gun do what it's going to do. I just want to connect to it. Okay, let's give it a try. Black group first, I think. Throughout the 2 days, we're going to analyze the targets the same way. When I look at this, I'm not like, oh, you had 5 Charlies and 1 Delta. That's not what I'm keyed in on. Instead, we're focused on what does the pattern tell us? So things are shifted off to the left and shifted down What does that tell us? Versus here, things are shifting up high. Things shift up high. This shooter, predisposed to push left and low, some low, some high, mostly left. What are we looking at here? The patterns. Yeah, we're looking for the big picture patterns. Now, there's a couple things here we can pay attention to. Now, when you're pulling the trigger, you're going to pull it hard when you're being asked to shoot this fast. Why? Because there's going to be tension coming to your hand, and people tend to really smash the trigger pretty hard. That's just what they're going to do. So what's helpful for dry fire, like on a shadow, I just turn on the safety, aim at a spot, and you can see, am I pushing the trigger hard? Yeah, this is good. I'm pushing the trigger super hard. With a Glock, you'll just let it go dead or whatever, and then just take your finger off it, push it hard again, whatever. But simulating, press, really hard. Now, if I'm this shooter, when I start doing dry fire like this, what I ought to see is this. Can you see what's happening with a gun? Yeah, I'm moving it. Okay, so you want to see that in your dry fire. Like if this is my target, I want to see my sight blipping down low to the left because I know I'm doing that with my hand when I pull the trigger. And it's be very easy to dry fire like soft like this and not move anything. But that's not simulating what's happening. Okay, so you could, as you can see here, things fall into two patterns. Moving the gun with your firing hand, which is for a righty, they're typically going to push it left. What's causing the high hits? Yeah, your eyes follow the sights up. So what I say is you hit where you look for better or worse. If you're following that red dot is this bouncing ball, bullets go up into that cone and you won't really see it. So if you have them slipping up high, it's that you're not returning the gun to the spot you're looking at. Because that's what makes the gun go where you want is you're looking at that spot. Okay, that's why we gave you a black aiming reference on these. Okay, does this make sense to everybody? Okay, let's paste up all the targets, get new aiming references. Come on back, we're gonna shoot bullets. Okay, so did everybody experience what right felt like at some point? It's like you're looking at a spot, it's just like, yep, boom, boom, and you shoot, and the gun doesn't feel like it moves around a whole lot. It's not about you reefing on the gun or trying to force it to do anything, you're just looking at a spot. Everybody experienced that, I think. Okay, now we're gonna just make it tougher. What we want is that the two things that matter, which is staring at that black spot with the intent to send bullets there and your grip on the gun, like those two things have to stay the same over a sustained string of fire. Now, well, I'll make a couple examples for you. It should be pretty obvious what's going on here. We're gonna start from the holster at the start signal, draw the gun. No time limit for that. Don't give a shit. I just want you to get on a grip that you judge is acceptable, however long that takes. Look at the spot where you want to send bullets, and then we're going to fire 4 pairs. I'll make an example for you. Okay, so that's an example like, yep, looks good. Everything is right. We need everything to stay the same over that 8 rounds. I'll give you a more common example. Okay, so what happened in the second example? But you see there's one low and left at the beginning. So this is, I'm making a complicated example like this because this is what's going to be going on over the next few minutes while we're shooting this. Most people don't have like one problem, they have a few, all right? Really common problem that you'll see in people shooting is in their dry fire, they hold the gun too loosely. So they're not really accountable for how much pressure needs to be on there. So they'll draw the gun to fire live ammo. They're like, oh shit, that first one surprises them. Then they start pushing down on the gun. Then they stop themselves doing that and then, do something else. In this case, I did that, hold the gun loose, boom, push down the first one, stare at the sight, and then we can see the second shot in every pair went up high, right? What you're doing when you shoot is going to be some combination of things. It'll be something like that or something different. Or let's say you start shooting and your dominant hand just goes, tenses up more and more, and you start pushing on the gun more and more as you're shooting. The reason we're shooting like an 8-round string now is so you can feel what's going on and see what's going on and try to work your way through it. All right. It'll probably be something a little bit complicated, like the example I just gave you. It'll be something like everybody's a little bit unique. You're special snowflakes. So we're going to shoot a lot of rounds and again, try to figure this out. The objective isn't so much to put them all in the A zone. Instead, I want you to shoot aggressively enough that they're going a little bit out, and then you can articulate what the hell's happening, like what is causing that to happen or what you could change. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, let's give it a try. Black, come on up. All right, how many of you are having a problem focusing on that black spot instead of focusing on your sight? Yes, it's not easy to do. All right, and it's this subtle is what we're talking about. Like, let's say I'm focused on this object out here. Okay, I'll look at your Arc'teryx thing. Like, I say I'm focused on this. Now watch what my eyes do. My sight's coming up to me. What happened? Yeah, so it's like, it's really what you're being asked to do is as simple as this. Look at that spot. Your finger comes up and you just keep looking at that spot. You don't see my eyes move. Now, like, let's pretend the bullet goes right where the tip of my finger is. So I'm very interested in having the tip of my finger in exactly the right spot. But the way that I get it to that spot is by continuing just to look at that spot and not flipping my focus onto the tip of my finger itself. But you can tell if you're watching, it's this subtle. All right. Now, yeah, and it's like, believe it or not, this little exercise can help you, right? In a sense, you're looking at that spot and your gun will come up into your awareness, but you don't react to that. You'll just see a shadow outline of your gun with the color red sitting on top of that outline. And you don't ever look at this thing. You're looking at where you want it to go. So I'll give you a couple of parallels. So let's say you're driving a car. Do you stare at the hood of the car to point it where you want? Like, you learn early on, like, you don't do that. That's super counterproductive, right? What about using a mouse? So you're at a computer using the mouse. Do you stare at the pointer as it goes around the screen? No, you're very comfortable. Like, this is what's weird about red dots. People, they have a hard time finding the dot initially, right? So they bring the gun up and as soon as they see the dot, they stare at it. Now they don't want to lose it. So they just, it's like this, right? They're like, oh, I don't want to lose it. But really quickly, you want to get to where you're comfortable with the red dot leaving your awareness. So what I mean is, like, I'm looking here and now I'm looking over here. And in that moment where I shifted my attention over to this side, I was not aware of where the red dot was. I just trust and believe. I look over here, it's going to come to me. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so there's a lot of tools we can use to stop people from staring at their sight. Can change the brightness of the dot. Now, ideally, I think your red dot is going to be a red thing that exists out in the world. It's not bright and pulling your attention to it. It's not dim and difficult to see. It's just a red thing that's hanging out. Okay? So playing with the brightness of the dot, one direction or the other, can help you understand this. Like, make it too bright, where it's like, you're like, oh shit, like, you can't look through it with that. It's like so bright. Try setting the brightness higher. Like, turn it down. So where it's kind of dim, or maybe set it to where you think it's right, and just keep playing with the brightness of the dot. That can help you understand what you're actually doing. Other things we can do, have you seen occluding the sight? Of course, covering over the front of the sight. This is a helpful tool that should indicate to you when you're focused on the sight. The way that works is, if I actually stare at the sight, it just shuts down my view of the target. Like, it covers over the target. So we could do that as well. But basically, it comes down to just having the intent to look at the spot and not looking at your sight. One other thing that makes this hard here is the sight's going to be up in your awareness for like 5 seconds while you're shooting. The longer you're sitting here looking through the sight, the more likely you are to look at it. And that's one of the features of this drill. It's not really a bug. It just helps you, like, yeah, look through it, don't look at it. We want to do a quick exercise to show you this. I think so. Let's get everybody up here, please. Got it. We want to do a quick exercise. So we've just done grip and focus, right? Yes? Yep. Jesus. You guys are not lively. I do not approve. Now we're going to start shooting, trying to get accountability. So we want to be accurate to a certain level. And we're going to react to a few things, like to a few different things. Well, let me describe it this way. if I start with my pistol down here, if I look at the black spot and the pistol comes up to where I'm looking, I'm going to become aware of different things at different times. And I'll put it to you like this. I think first, I feel like my gun's pointed at the target. It's just like my body index. It's a feeling. Okay? After that, I'll become aware of the color of the sight. And then after that, I'll notice that the sight looks like a red dot and is stabilizing where I'm looking. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, what I'm going to do now is react to those things, and we'll see how the hits change. Okay, so first, I become aware of the body index, or like I feel like the gun's pointed at the target. So I'll start down here, look at my spot. Okay, we're going to do this just as an exercise. Do I think that you should shoot this way? No, obviously not. Now, in a controlled environment like this, if I take my pistol, I'm standing still, I index on this spot, and then I lower the pistol, when I come back up to that spot, I'm going to be very accurate. Like, it's going to go where I want him to go. Like, the reason we don't shoot this way, like when we're shooting for score or whatever, is because if you're moving around and shooting, it's not going to be like this. It doesn't just go where you look. What most of the shooting we do, I would call color confirmation, where I'll just be aware of the color of the sight near that spot. Okay, let me show you what I mean. There we go. All right, how much slower was that? That's another great thing to point out. It feels good sometimes to just point the gun and pull the trigger fast when you get in a hurry. It's not slower to be aware of the color of the sight. And if you think about it like this, if I look at a spot and the gun comes over there, if the gun's between my eye and the target, I'm gonna register the color of the sight, right? Yeah, so there's no reason really not to do that. All right, now I'm gonna look at that black spot and wait till my dot looks like a dot before I shoot. All right, as you can see, it tightened things up considerably. How much slower was that? A little bit. You could detect a difference. It's a little bit slower. All right, then in some cases, I'll be aware of the sight that looks like a red dot, and then I'll just consciously and deliberately press the trigger. It doesn't really mean slow. It just means I'm going to pull the trigger and make sure I'm not flexing the muscles in my hand. Ah. Okay. How much slower is that? A little bit, noticeably slower. Like I don't do that unless I kind of have to, but now you see I'm like paster accuracy if I do everything right. Okay, I would say our shooting is going to fit into one of those 4 buckets, right? Typically color confirmation, just reacting to red. How far away will you do that to?
7-10 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I think higher level guys, 12, 15 yards. Like let's say you have major scoring. Like at 15 yards, that's going to be enough to keep them and nibble on the C-zone. It's like, that's going to be where it's at. It's just reacting to the color of your sight. Now, most people don't like that. That doesn't feel comfortable, right? No, it doesn't feel comfortable. But that'll be what most people need to do is color confirmation. Sometimes dot looks like a dot. If you're, for higher level people, especially with really gamed out guns with light triggers, very rarely are they going to have to be conscious of the press on the trigger. For newer people, or let's say you're struggling pushing the gun left, if we put the targets at distance, I'd say, hey, just put your focus on your hand and pull the trigger straight at some times. Okay? Just, yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm missing the 4th piece somehow. So you had raising and just
Yep,
seeing it?
index, color, dot looks like a dot, and then conscious deliberate press on the trigger. Would be the fourth one.
That was the fourth one. Okay.
Yep.
4 was like 3, except you put the focus on.
Yeah, you flip the focus to your hand after.
Oh.
Yes.
When you're talking about color confirmation, are you talking about like the streak of red crossing the black, or just in the general vicinity, or like what's generally considered?
Yeah, so it'd be red anywhere in the vicinity of the black. So that's another thing that's hard for people is the like the yin and yang nature of it. It's like you're hyper focused on a really small spot, right? I have a strong desire that bullets go right at something the size of a paster. However, I'm going to react to something really gross. Like I see red slash across that, send. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like a dueling forces, and people have a really hard time wrapping their head around it. But that is what it is. Yeah, you'll react to like red streak, send.
Okay.
Good. All right, should we give this a try? Good. Let's get everybody up here. We're going to do a quick trigger control exercise. So it's easy to say, hey, pull the trigger with just this finger. Don't flex these fingers. For most people, that's not an easy thing to do, is it? All right. The exercise we're going to do is pretty simple. I'm going to stare at that spot. When I hear the beep, I press through. So stare at spot, dots there, press through. Now, again, like all of your dry fire, if you know something's wrong when you're shooting live ammo, like how many of you do this, like push the gun? Okay, so when you start dry firing this, what should we see? This. Why? We should see that. We should, because you know you're doing it with live ammo, and I want to make sure that you recreate what you're doing. Then as soon as you see it, you're like, yep, this is what I'm doing. Keep doing the same aggression level. You know, it's easy to, like if you're doing this, it's easy to do the trigger press like this and nothing moves. That's not what you're being asked to do though, right? You have to be able to rip the trigger back quickly and aggressively without anything really moving. Okay, should we give this a try? All right, come on up. We're gonna do strings of 6. So we'll be drawing and shooting 6 rounds. We'll start up at this front cone and then work our way back. We'll shoot from all 3 cones. What I want you to do is react to what, react to the littlest thing you can. I would say up at the front cone, can I react to color and have the right amount of accountability? Yes, I agree. The third cone back, for most people, the dot's going to look like a dot and they'll shoot it like it's a bouncing ball, being reactive to that. The middle cone, I think, is the most interesting. Why would I say that? Yeah, so when I say, hey, like how far do you think this color deal is going to work? People want to say like 7 yards, maybe 10. I think you'll find the reality is like for higher level shooters, they can do that at 10 or 15. You know what I mean? So it's like that middle distance is where people start. They want to slow down to a red dot, like dot looks like a dot type of confirmation when that's not strictly necessary. I'll make a couple examples for you. Here I'll be just reacting to color. So if I register color anywhere near that black, I'm going to shoot. If I keep registering color, I keep pulling the trigger. I just registered color on that spot. Look at the spot. Fire 6. Back up. Back up. All right. I'll do this 2 different ways. What did I react to there? Looked like color, yeah. How much did that slow things down? Not much. Now, if I'm still focused on that small black spot, they're going to go where I want. Now I'll shoot dot looks like a dot. So now I'm tearing the edge around that paster. Is that level of accountability necessary at this distance? No. This will be the most common thing. People want to over-confirm. They want the dot to look perfect when they start to get a little distance. Back up some more. So at this distance, dot looks like a dot. And you can see it. So as soon as it came down, dot, 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 I perceive it as this bouncing ball. Looking at the black thing, dot, 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 dot. As soon as it comes down, I'm pulling the trigger. And that's plenty of accountability for us. We're holding like A zone and nibble at the edge with the C zone. Does this make sense to everybody? Right, again, it's your choice what you want to do. I recommend color confirmation up front, confirmation 3 or dot looks like a dot back here. In the middle, do the color confirmation if you at all can. Because that's going to be that's like the separator A class to M or GM comes at the mid-range doing color confirmation, I think. That's a big part of it. Make sense? All right, let's give it a try. All right, let's take a look at these targets and make sure people understand what's going on here. Now, what should we have as far as our outcome? What do we want? A-zone hits, that's nice. I think it's achievable at this distance as well. Like, we should be clustered around the aiming reference with things going out concentrically, right? The way I like to look at it is, if I'm doing everything right, the more I push on the speed throttle, things just open up concentrically. Now, typically things will open up more like this, right? This, where they go, some of them go up and away and some of them we push down. It's like, as you can see here, that's the trend for most targets, is they get away from you visually or you push down on the gun. Some people not having a vision problem here, just pushing on the gun. Do you understand what you have to do training-wise to fix this? Yeah, that's good. Anything else? We've got a couple. Well, I think one, what's the problem here? Watching the dot. Yeah, this shooter is just staring at the dot. The gun climbs up and away. What's the problem here, if anything? Now, if we have a really wide pattern group, what do we think? So usually if it's centered where you like it's centered where I want, it's just wider than I'd like, that's usually the shooter focused on the red dot. So what happens as soon as we back up a little bit, now you perceive the target is very small, and if you focus on the dot, you'll put the dot back in the middle and you'll register red on brown. You're like, yeah, looks good. Looks good. Looks good. And it just ends up being wider than you'd like. Whereas if you're actually focused on the black, that'll be something different. And just here, this is the same thing, dominant hand pushing down.
What is like, so I know what going down left, what is like up to the right?
Up to the right is typically on your red dot. You're focused on your red dot. Do you notice how amazingly predictable the issues are, though? It's like people, I'm sorry, you're not all special snowflakes. I mean, people tend to do like push the gun like this, stare at the sight, ride that up, and they get up and away. For me, like sometimes if the fit of the gun is a certain way, like the dimension backstrap to the face of the trigger, if that gets to be really long, like a long reach, sometimes I'll pull the gun like this, that kind of thing. But it's very, very predictable what people are going to do. What you want to do is train on the drills that we did this morning, all of them, the live fire components, the dry fire stuff. You train that stuff until, your grip needs to be unconscious, like you're not thinking about it. The concept of target focus should be ingrained, where if you're not target focused, it feels wrong. How many of you today got a different look at, oh, now I see what target focus really is, that kind of thing. Oh, now I understand what color confirmation these guys are talking about. I see what that is. You got forced to shoot in a way that's uncomfortable. But it's these are the component skills of shooting. If we're moving around and shooting, this is still, this stuff is going to drive you being successful or not. All right? Yes.
So I have a problem with, trying to manage tension in the firing hand on the trigger, and I'm just over gripping it. When I'm shooting with somebody watching me, I'll hit a point where I feel like I'm over not grip it, so to speak, to the point where I'm just barely cradling the gun in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
But I will still be told that visually I am gripping it too hard, while my perception is I'm barely holding the gun.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips, tricks, techniques to practice something like that to really help work on relaxing the grip while not feeling?
Yeah. So you can you recreate this problem dry? Yes. So it's you get enough time pressure to yourself, you'll come up, boom, you're crushing the gun. Now you're already hip to the fact that your perception is not reality. right? It's another thing. I mean, the biggest thing with competitive shooting would be you have no concept of time, right? Is that fair to say? It just is what it is. People have no real concept of it, and you just accept, like, my perception of time is going to be pretty far apart from time. The same thing with grip pressure. You understand that already. So this is an easy thing to train. It's like, do your dry fire aggressively enough that you're tempted, that you're actually clamping on the gun. Then you do your training focused only on that one element, singularly focused on that thing. How many things can we consciously control at a time? One, right? One thing. So you have to train one thing until it becomes a habit, right? For most people, that's like daily-ish practice for 2 weeks to make a habit. So I think for most people, they don't train enough that they actually change any of these habits. They just kind of go shoot, and like one day it's like, it's this, they're focused on this thing. Then another day they're focused on this. Doing actual systematic training, like on a near daily basis for dry fire, is what it takes to actually change habits. So that might be the problem. Okay, I think it's a good time to eat lunch. What do you guys think? So is everybody staying here? Yeah, so like 30. I'm gonna make a couple examples for you. One of them is gonna be not so good, and one of them should be okay. I will let you identify which is which. Is that good? That was bad. That was the bad one. So as you can see, I draw, what am I connecting to? The red dot. I'm just staring at that thing. And then we'd call that overconfirmation, where I'm reacting to red dot, red dot, red dot, when that's a lot slower than what I need. Also, you could tell my posture was kind of tense. I'm like locked onto the gun. Instead, we want a more natural kind of flowing style where I look at a spot and I just let the gun come there, and I'm reactive to red at this distance. Let's try this again. Okay. So any difference there in the outcome? No, I mean, the A's were the same. It was just way faster and smoother. And I think you could characterize what was done. It's more like the good example. There's just things not happening. Did I tense up? No. Did I ride the dot or stare at the red dot? No. I'm just looking at a spot, reacting to red. I get done looking at this spot, look at the other spot. All right, so the idea with this drill, we've got 2 targets. They should just be set in depth. There's not really a lateral transition between them. This is intentional. What we're going to do is draw and shoot 6 rounds on the close target. What are we going to be looking for on the close one? 6 rounds, but like, what am I looking to see before? Color confirmation. So I look red. I keep seeing red, keep pulling the trigger. What this means for most of you is this is going to be literally as fast as you can pull the trigger. So we're shooting 6 rounds on this one just to give you an opportunity to do the wrong thing, which would be firing hand tenses up. Maybe you start staring at the red dot. Maybe your support hand leaves the exercise. You start hunching up your shoulders and tensing. Yeah, that'll be you. You start hunching up your shoulders and tensing up like this. Any one of these things is bad. We don't want to do that. We want to just like, yep, just looking at my spot, connected to the gun, shooting like I don't care. Like, keep looking at it, red, 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 red. If I stay loose, stay neutral, like my technique holds up for 6 rounds, if I just look at the other target, the gun will go right to where I'm looking. I register red on that spot and start pulling the trigger. Does that make sense? If I'm all tentative, if I do this, like, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, like this is horrible. Like that's what we're designed to highlight here. Does this make sense to everyone? Okay, so we're gonna have everybody give this drill a try. Do 2-3 reps on it, and then we'll do a couple of like a micro drill to help you understand this, and then we'll do some reps on it. Sound good? All right, one note here, or a couple of notes. The groups from the morning, black and white group, we're done with that. Now you're free birds, you're individuals. We'll just run half the group, then the other half. I don't care who shoots with what half. The other thing is, I've set the cones here. So you stand on one side of the cone, everything appears right. You know, on the other side of the cone, everything appears correct, where I'm not shooting through the targets onto another one. So just be careful where you stand here. You got to stand, in the right spot so the bullets go through the target to the backstop. We do not want to shoot the retaining wall on the bottom. That's going to get Nicole in trouble. which is sort of bad. So we'll try to avoid that. And then we'll make sure that we don't shoot through the targets and shoot the ones behind it. They should just be set laterally. Okay, good. All right, let's get to it. We're gonna do a little exercise here to work on target transitions just to help you be aware of what this should feel like. So if my timer volunteer would come over here, I can make a few examples for you. What I'm gonna do is look at one of the targets. Doesn't matter which one. Look at the black spot on one target. When I hear a beep, I shoot that shot on that target. Then I look to the other target. The gun should go over there, and then I do not shoot that shot. The reason I'm not shooting every time is I want to assess what my sight does as it comes over. I'm not interested in shooting a shot ready. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. I'll make a few examples for you. Watch the way the gun moves between the targets. Again, we're not assessing where the bullets go, so don't worry about that part. Alrighty, here we go. Easy, man. All right. Okay. So you saw it a few different ways, I think. All right. At the beginning and the end is what I would judge as correct or good. All right. What did I do to make the gun go from here to there? I just looked at it. Right. I'm not conscious of this part. I'm not thinking about this. The gun goes up a little bit in recoil, and I'm just looking at where I want it to go. So the gun goes up right down to where I'm looking. And I didn't feel like I did anything. I wasn't conscious about muscle pressure or anything. Just look at the spot I want to go to. As natural as like look at spot, finger points at spot. I'm not conscious about what my arm's doing. Then you saw me try to push the gun from one spot to the next. That was really apparent. It was like it didn't go where I wanted. It went past where I wanted. Now, if you're actually shooting on the drill we were doing before, like 6 shots here, 2 shots, like if you're actually shooting, what's going to happen is you'll clack the trigger anyway, and probably the bullets will just impact past your intended point of aim, right? Or you'll wait for everything to stabilize and bring the sight back, and then you'll pull the trigger, in which case you'll be slow, right? What we want is that it just goes bloop right where I'm looking. Okay, you also saw, right, where things were delayed. It was shoot, gun comes back, then move over here. What's going on there? A lot of times people recognize that they're not doing the right thing. They're not doing what they want. And they'll just slow everything down, stare at the sight, and very carefully move it to where they want. Obviously, this is not correct. This is not the way. But again, we want to just simply shift your vision to where you want to go, and the gun will go there. Let's think again about using a mouse. So if you want to click on stuff quickly, like how would you do that? Right, but when I say go fast, does that make sense to you using a computer? Honestly. No. Yeah, exactly. Like when you use a computer, like when you use a mouse, there's not a concept in your head about fast or slow. Look, pointer, click, right? That's what everybody does. It does not make sense to you really to go, like, what do you mean be fast? Like whip the mouse around the pad faster? Is that going to make me fast? No, I'm just going to be imprecise. It's just the same with your gun. It's like you try to do stuff to speed it up. Like, oh, if you probably heard like, oh, drive the gun over to here, like start the transition in your feet. Ugh. You know, that kind of, I think that stuff's crazy. I mean, as you're seeing here, that's just not productive. If this transition starts getting really wide, then we could talk about driving the gun. But for the most part, you're just looking where you want it to go and it will go there. The more you do, as far as muscle tension, whatever, to make that happen, the less it's going to happen. Make sense? All right, we're going to try this. Again, just this little exercise. Gun point at a spot. Beep, boom. Look to the other spot immediately. All right, let's give it a go. Thank you, sir. Yep. Any observations from that little awareness exercise transitioning?
It's really easy to drive the gun or want to.
Yeah, no, it's hardwired into you as a person. Like, the harder I try, the more I get the thing. But that's not how this works. It's not about mechanical effort or pushing the gun to make it go anywhere or do anything. That's not going to be helpful. Now, one thing that might help you is learning how to assess what you see from other people's guns. And you just like look at what the muzzle does, and that's going to tell you a lot. So for example, we saw some shoot, gun comes back, and then move. What is this shooter staring at? Boom. All right. What about this? Transitioning, change direction. Transitioning, change direction. What's going on here? Yes, exactly. That's good. Watching the dot. Now, how you can assess that is if I go to a spot, I look to a spot, the gun's going to come to the spot that I'm looking. All right. What people happen if they're staring at the sight, they stare at the sight here, then they recognize, oh, my intended target is actually, it's up higher than I thought. Then you'll see that direction change. So if you see a transition that's in an L shape or any direction change during a target transition, that's indicating to you, hey, that person's not looking at the target, which means they're looking at their sight. Because you either look at one thing or the other is how it works. Does everybody understand that? So when you're watching other people, just be like, yeah, you're doing this. And that is to help them. We can bring back bullying in this class if you want. Try to make your shooting better. Yeah.
So, would you want to be seeing the L in the other direction? Dot rises off target, shoots down to where you're going, or do you want to see the dot return before you're making your transition?
You'll never, so that's a good question. So if I'm shooting over here and then I look to a target over there, I will not register the dot return. Like I would say if you see the dot come back on this target when I'm meant to be bringing the gun over here, you're way behind. You should have already looked away. And then that's the other thing that I talked about earlier, where you have to get comfortable with the idea that you lose awareness of the dot all the time. So you're not even trying to maintain awareness of it.
So you just call your shot and then just go.
Yes. So I register red, like typically I'll see the dot, depending on how precise the shot is, right? I might see the dot look like a dot and start to lift up, or I just registered color and I'll look away. Yeah. I mean, you're calling the shot off that, which just like, it's easy to say. It's just hard to get yourself, like you're done there. Now the bullet's out of the gun. It's gone. Okay, let's head back out here. We're going to try that 8-shot drill again. Now I'm going to shoot this like a pretty aggressive training pace. And again, just to highlight, like this should be like what it looks like if you're doing it really aggressively. Okay, so when did I start shooting? As soon as the gun hit my eye target line. Why? Because I registered red where I wanted the bullets to go. As soon as the gun came up, I'm on the trigger shooting. After 6 shots, I flipped my attention to as close as I could get to the center of the target back there. And I've decided I'm going to shoot color confirmation, not looking for the dot, just reactive to red. Like I said, this kind of mid-range-ish thing, this is the big separator for people. So if you're like pretty good, but not where you want to be, look to shoot color confirmation back there. And then I just look, as soon as I see color, I start shooting again. And then again, it's the absence of tension, trying really hard, whatever. Did I look like I was really trying? Yeah, it's like I'm just relaxed. The only part that really tensed up was my hands. And this is why if you see high-level shooters, they typically don't look like they're trying that hard. They run like a raped ape from spot to spot, sure, but when they're actually shooting, it's pretty relaxed for the most part. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, there's one other thing to say about this drill. When you're shooting it like this, all right, you're going to shoot really aggressively. It's just the spot on the target back there that your eye grabs, that's just where the gun's going to go. So to me, it's like I just grab the right spot and I get what I want. If I just look at brown, it's like that. Pretty simple. It's just hard to do. We want to try this again. All right, we'll rep this one out. It was a great catch. I'm glad you guys. Okay, we have. We're going to do 2 exercises. Just for your reference, we've got 2 copies of an exercise set up on Bay 1. It's the same thing over here. And then over here will be something different. So I'll brief you 2 exercises at once. And then you'll get, I don't know, like 2 hours, maybe 90 minutes, whatever, however it rolls, just to shoot them as much as you want with me circulating around. So I'll run one bay while this one's resetting. I'll go over there, run that bay. If they reset this bay, dry fire on it, I'll come back and we fire it up. Okay? All right. This exercise here is a vision exercise. So our target, obviously, is our target back there with the black reference point on it. We're going to engage that target 3 times, left, center, and right of this thing. This is just serving as a vision barrier. It's just there to get in your way and be difficult and to suck. That's the only reason it's there, is that to force you to contend with it. Now, with a vision barrier, should that thing ever appear clear to me? No. So I don't focus on it. It's like I'm looking through it for a target I know is on the other side. I'm looking to shoot that target. So I don't stare at that thing. I don't like put my sight on the side of it and work around until I see the thing I want. I just like go to where I think I need to be and look for the target in a very simple fashion. Anyway, I'll make an example for you. So like I said, it's going to be left, center, right. You can shoot any order that makes you happy. I don't really care. I guess in this case, I'll do right, center, left. All right. So watch what's happening here. All right. So my focus is back there. My focus is not up here, up front. Now, as far as technique for the drill, just low, wide, feet spread apart. Do your best with that to keep some stability as you kind of shuffle around and find that spot. It's just a vision exercise designed to, give you some distractions. Pretty simple. It's a good one to do. Any questions about this one? No. Okay, let's go over here then. So we've got a few target transition exercises set up. Pretty simple, just 4 targets. We're going to shoot them twice each. All right, what I'd like you to do, and this is why I said, hey, the dry fire part of this is critical. I want you to be doing that. I'm going to go through this dry. And what I'm going to do is not pull the trigger or simulate the shot or anything like that. I'm just going to look where I want the gun to go. Look, 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 look. As soon as I register that the gun is where I think it should be, I react to that by going to the next target. Look, 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 look. Does this look fast to anyone? What's that? All right, that's great. If I'm shooting, it'll be faster. So watch the way the gun moves. Did the gun move any differently between the targets? Don't think so. So the takeaway here should be, it's like what makes you fast is not the physical speed, the mechanical speed of moving the gun around. That's not what's important. What made me fast is I'm on the trigger as soon as I registered the correct confirmation. And I look away to the next target as soon as I register that, yep, I've fired the shots on this target. I look to the next thing. There's just no delays in what I'm doing. Does that make sense? Like that's what's making me fast. Now, again, for the dry fire, it's really important that you look where you want to go and you react as soon as the sight gets there and you're not mentally shooting shots in your brain or with your finger. Why? Because I don't want you to worry about what your concept of how fast you should go is. Instead, you're just kind of working to get the sight where you want really efficiently. And then when you're shooting, you'll just react to what you see. A lot of times people have this pace in their head that they think it's supposed to be, and they'll train to that pace like a metronome, and that's not the right pace. Too fast, too slow, whatever. It's just not right for them. Instead, I want you to look at spots, get the gun to go where you want, like a really quick aiming simulator. And then when we're actually shooting rounds, you just react to what you see. And it's much easier. Okay, if you're having trouble going faster, maybe I want you to go faster, I might tell you that you're going to shoot this just index. Okay? Index meaning I feel like the gun's aligned, and then I look where I want to go. So I'll give you an index example. All right. Now, what are we expecting in terms of accountability when I index like that? Way less. It's like you will not get good hits consistently. I didn't. But as a training exercise, this is very helpful. This gives me a good sense of how fast and aggressive I could shoot this. Okay, again. Now, one thing to point out here, even though I'm shooting just based on the index, I am aware of the sight. What do I mean by that? I mean, I've decided I'm going to shoot when I feel like the gun's there, but I do become aware of this red thing up there. That's another helpful thing about shooting index like this. I'm aware of the sight and I'm thinking it would be kind of it'd be just basically the same time if I just used the sight. Okay, so the times there, like really quick, low 2 seconds. Now I'm gonna look to a small spot and hold myself to color confirmation. Just looking for that red. How much slower was that? A little bit slower, but the accountability then goes way up. So this is a training tool I might tell you to use depending on what I see from your shooting. Again, that's just a training tool. That's not an engagement sequence that you would actually do. Does this make sense to everyone? All right, so once again, like I'll run one bay, then roll over and run the other bay. When I'm gone, just reset it. Once it's safe, it looks good, everybody's back, start your dry fire. I want you to do those dry reps. They're very, very helpful. And I'll come back and we'll run this bay. You can cycle around wherever you want. Each of these transition scenarios is a little bit different. So, like work around, move around, have some fun with it. And we'll just train kind of disconnected until you guys are kind of over it. Good? Now let's do it. Are you ready to start? It's going to be so much fun. OMG. All right, we're going to start working on stance, movement. Those are kind of related concepts. So yesterday I didn't talk about it at all, like how you ought to be standing. Now what I like to see is you start and stop each movement, feet spread apart, knees bent, ready to move again. Like think about it like that. All right, hey, let's race to the berm. So get ready. You're ready? Okay, I'm going to get ready. Are you ready, really? Oh my God. I am kind of old for this. All right, stand by. Right. So you see, you didn't go to the berm, loser. That's not the berm. All right. So you see how when I'm getting ready for the movement, I lower down and spread my weight out and I'm ready to pop the direction I want to go. Like you're literally getting ready for a foot race when you set up to shoot. Does that make sense to everyone? That's what I want to see. So think about it like that. I want to make it natural that I'm low, wide, and ready to go. Like this should feel comfortable. This should feel like home. So what we're going to do for all the drills we do this morning, you're going to start and stop like that. Now, is this how they're going to start you in a match?
Not always.
Not always. I would say not even usually. Probably not. You're probably not going to start like that. They'll be like, hey, standing like feet on the thingy like this. But you'll just get in the habit of, okay, when I get the start signal, I lower myself down and get ready to move naturally. Sound good? All right, so that's what I want to see. You start and stop. Yes, sir.
Do you dry fire that stance for everything? Or do you think it matters? Like if you're standing there doing draws or reloads or transitions?
Yeah, I don't do it all. I wouldn't say I do it all the time. It's just as soon as there starts to be movement, like I'm going to lower down and spread out. If you're standing there practicing draws like this, I think that's fine. It's not really going to matter. But if you want to do it for a while to kind of get in the habit, that wouldn't be a bad thing either. All right, so that's what we want to see. Start and stop like that. So you're ready to go. All right, so first drill we'll do today, we're going to start and stop in that correct stance. I will make a few examples for you. All right, so as you can see, we're going to shoot each target with 2 rounds, move across the stick, shoot each target with 2 rounds again. However, I want it to look fluid. That will look kind of robotic, like shoot, move, then shoot. Instead, everything should be fluid, happening together. And then also think back to what confirmation should look like. So on these targets at this distance, I would say, hey, we're just looking for color off the sight, right? Yeah, head's nodding, yes. Just looking for the color. So if just because people start moving, they want to then stare at the sight, like, over confirm what they're doing. And we're trying to break out of that. So the way I like to think about it is you disconnect what the lower body's doing from the upper body. So it's not my feet stop. I feel all tucked into my stance. This feels nice. And then I start shooting. Instead, I'm looking for where I want bullets to go. And as soon as I register red on there, it's like I start shooting. It doesn't matter what my feet are doing. Let me make an example for you. So you see there, nice and fluid, continual shooting. That's what I'm looking for. And notice I started and stopped with my feet in the correct stance. That's what we want to do. You with me so far? All right, another way to conceptualize this for the people that are a little bit more advanced. If you see an example of me just standing there shooting and then doing it with the foot movement, did the foot movement really matter? No, that's kind of what we want. All right, what we're trying to take away from this is the ability to stand like this, move around, mount the gun, start shooting as you're stopping, move around aggressively, mount the gun, start shooting as you're stopping, that kind of style, where you're low, wide, aggressive, and you can move yourself around. Everybody understand? All right, now one thing I'll say about this drill, for whatever reason, it fucks people up. They start, it's like shoot, oh, then they can't think about what their feet are doing, or they focus on their feet and the shooting is terrible. What the best solution is do dry fire on this, like 2-3 minutes. Just, okay, this, kind of get in the groove of the exercise, dry, before you start using up your ammo. Okay? Sound okay? Any questions on this one? There'll be some forward and backwards, some lateral. The principles are the same. All right, let's go to the other side. So this is going to look like another movement drill. I want you to keep the same principles in mind, where you stop, feet spread apart, knees bent, ready to move, and you're reactive to what you see on the sight, irrespective of what your body's doing. I'll make a couple examples for you. Okay, so that's what a lot of people are going to want to do when they start shooting and moving here. Is that the right thing? No, you can see it's like you're over confirming what I'm doing. I'm sitting there waiting for everything to stop before I shoot. And a lot of times you'll see people do this kind of like start moving. Then they see the sight moving around. They're like, oh, I don't like that. Stop. Okay, now I can shoot. Oh, I'm supposed to move a little. Oh, shit, stop, because now I want to shoot. That kind of thing. You're going to have way better luck if you just, once you start walking, you just walk through the thing and then look at the spots you want to hit. It's really that simple. Look for the spots I want to hit. I'll make another example for you. All right. So that's fluid, shooting and moving at the same time, and then appropriate confirmation, just the flash of color, and then the bullets will go right where I'm looking. Now, this looks like a movement thing. You do have to move a little bit, but I want you to focus on the visual part. These vision barriers are really the key to this whole thing. And remember we did the drill yesterday, like working with the vision barrier, trying to find that spot. It was a lot harder, right? This is the same kind of thing where it's like targets appear and disappear, and then you need to find the spot in the center of the target where you want to send bullets, and then the rounds will go there. Commonly, people stare at their sight when they're moving. Now, remember the exercise yesterday? We held the gun mounted and then tried to stabilize the sight. Now, the more you stared at the sight, the more you had the perception that the sight was moving. Now, what do you think happens when you're moving? It just gets worse. So that's where it's like getting comfortable with the idea of like, no, I'm just looking at the brown thing. And when I see that red flash on there, I react to that. As soon as I'm staring at the dot and it's moving a lot, and then I'm like, oh, try to stop it moving. It's like, you're going to be way behind. That's not what you want to do. Instead, just look at your spot, react to red. That's going to be the simplest way to do it. Think of this as an exercise where you're trying to find that spot on the target as you walk and the targets appear and disappear. If you shoot a lot of USPSA matches, what percentage of the challenge that you're going to see looks kind of like this? Yeah, I'd say 70, 80%, depending on the club you go to. This is a lot, is kind of walking close, mid-range targets, and you keep the gun mounted and you just keep shooting, right? This is what a lot of it looks like, so we want to be really, really good at this. The setup, you're going to start either on the right or the left side. The intent is that the barrels obscure the targets in the middle from where you start, right? So I have to hunt and find those targets. So it's easy to cheat this and start further back where you can see both the targets you're going to start on. That's not what I want you to do. I want you to make it so you have to hunt for the spot on the target. However, You don't need to go so close to the barrels that it becomes an issue where you need to bring the gun around the barrels. These are just meant to be vision barriers. They shouldn't be messing around with your stance or whatever. It's just there to obscure the targets. So you set yourself like back from it about 1.5 lengths of your arms so the barrels, you're not running into them, but they're still blocking what they're meant to. Okay? Does everybody understand what's going on with this one? Good. Okay, so we're gonna run like yesterday. I'll run one bay, then go over, then run the other bay, and just keep cycling through. I think that bay over there will finish first. And then I'll flip it to something else, and then we'll probably add a variation or something onto this exercise. You want to spend more time with this one. Just make sure after you shoot on one, you cycle over to the other bay and shoot over there, and you rotate around. You get a couple of looks at both of these because these are both good. Good? All right, let's get going. Emu. Panda. No? She wanted a code word. The safe word is gazelle.
Okay.
That's if you say something that's so bigoted, it's like inappropriate for Nicole, she'll say the safe word. All right, I'm going to make a couple examples for you here. It should be pretty obvious what I want after that. It's good, right? All right, so I want you to pay attention to body mechanics and what my head does this time. I'm going to start properly, feet spread apart, knees bent. What difference did you see there? Yes. Yeah, so there was a lot more certainty with what I was doing, both in terms of like the aggression level, the pace, and my head told the whole story. It's like, look where I'm going. I know I'm going to get there. Look up to the targets I want to shoot. So a lot of times people move slowly and they're kind of half looking downrange, like, oh, that one's kind of on the line. Oh, okay, target's over here. They do that kind of thing, and that's not what we want. It should be very aggressive and very direct. Now, when you're on a stage, I'll just say, you're going to look at a spot on a target you want to shoot, look a reload into the gun, or you look where you're going. Does that cover 95% of situations? Maybe you look at a doorknob you need to open or something like that. But for the most part, you're just looking at stuff you want to shoot. When you have nothing to shoot, you're looking at where you're going. When you're like, yep, I'm going to get to that cone, look up, where's my target? Oh, there it is. And you start shooting when the sight tells you. Sometimes you look more ammo into the gun. It's pretty much that simple. So I want to see your head reflect that. I'm looking at this thing I'm shooting. I'm looking where I'm going. Now I'm looking back over it doing shooting again. As before, feet spread apart, knees bent, ready to move. That's what I want to see on each end of the movement. I'll do one more example here. Pay attention to when I start shooting as I get over towards this side. When did I start shooting?
As soon as you can see it.
So as soon as I could see it, I would say my eye went up to it. I don't know if I shot right then, but I'm looking for the target and looking to shoot it. Had I stopped moving? No. I was still in motion. I'm just looking for the spot on the target. Now, to keep you honest with this, I put the no shoots are on the outside targets that you're going to come in and shoot those first. If we don't put the no shoots there, people will just like, oh, brown, just kind of hit it wherever. I want it to like psychologically hurt you when you shoot the no shoot. So we'll give you a spot there and then look to a small spot on the target when you come in. Okay. Any questions about this? This is just all the same stuff we're doing. Stance, feet spread apart, knees bent, movement, nice and aggressive. You're looking at what you're doing, whether you're moving, look to where you're going. Shooting, look at the target you want to shoot. It should be like a fluid thing. Shooting as you walk in and as you roll out of position, that is fine. You're just reacting to what you see. Other side, any questions on the other drill over there? The tracking drill? No, it's the same exercise. No questions on how that one's going? Really? Okay. Let's go over there. Let's grab 4 targets. Let's go over there. We've added some no-shoots over here. I think this is going okay, but I'll make a couple examples for you how you could do it better. I didn't say gazelle, did I? I'm sorry. All right, watch what happens with my shoulders here. Should show you a lot. What happened?
Super tense.
Super tense, whipping the gun around. So the time was fast. And I'm moving my feet. It looked sort of okay. But if you're watching his shoulders, you're like, he looks super tense. So all I did was go through it, tense up my shoulders, stare at the dot, and whip the dot around. And look at the outcome. It was garbage. Complete garbage.
What did the vision look like downrange on that?
To me,
Yeah, to you.
I was staring at the dot, just swiping it around brown. I'm like, oh, this is going to be exactly what I want, which was not good. Now, I think this reflects what a lot of people are doing is you start tensing up your shoulders, or Miss Jody's doing a change in her posture where she kind of brings the gun in a little bit and now the red dot's not there. Some of you guys are like torquing your body around where you stiffen up, step behind yourself and try to get the gun to go where you want. You want to try to cut as much of that stuff out as you can where your upper body just stays relaxed and it's disconnected from what your feet are doing. I like to put up the no-shoots here where they're just butted up against the A zone to kind of highlight this. Like I can still shoot really aggressively. It's just a matter of being precise visually and relaxed with my body. Then the gun will go where I want. And the no-shoots shouldn't bother me a whole lot. How much slower was that? How much slower was it? No, yeah, it wasn't. You're like, oh, it wasn't really slow. It wasn't slower. Again, it's like the no-shoots are just there now to help make that point. Like if I'm looking at a spot, I've got plenty of brown to look at. I'll just find a little spot. I see red anywhere near that. I'm going to have the precision I want. It's just, a lot of this is a matter of doing it some and trusting that. It will go where you want if you're paying attention to the principles, right? Keep your upper body relaxed. Look where you want to go. React to red. The more you try to engineer step like this, then this step, this foot back, the more you try to engineer it, the harder it gets. Make sense? Should we keep going on these? All right, let's get going. They're not scared. Here come the nice ladies and the not nice ones. They're all here.
Wow, those are all accurate statements.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to make a couple examples for you. And then we'll get back to the shooting part of the shooting thing. Not loving this holster angle right now, but we're gonna make it happen. That look good to anybody? It did not look good. Okay, that's good. Did not look good. We agree. Okay, so what was different about that run? Yeah, so this is why I've been harping on the way you stop matters. A lot of you, I'm not really going to point too many fingers, but a lot of you are, doing this or the, like this, the fairy. Yeah, so when you stop, you want to make a habit of like, I'm ready for the next movement. So during dry fire or something like that, that's my mental check. Just like do this stuff, go over here, okay. When I stop, it's like, am I ready to move again? With that aggressive athletic posture or not? Now we'll just make it a 2-movement thing. So start here, go over there, come back over here. And it's like, it's a check on your stance. Make sense to everybody? Okay, let's go to the other side. Here, I'll make a couple examples for you. Okay. So the sequence will be, we'll start on the center. You shoot the one target that you have directly in front of you. Move opposite the vision barrier. You're going to go to the inside target. So you're going to have to move a little bit, find that target. And this couple steps in movement will kind of get you going. And then I want you keep moving. So it'll be shooting while you move. Look at the spot you want to hit. Just walk through here, cross the stick at the end, and then shoot the last target in the head box. That gives you like a stop time, stops the exercise. The second example is a really common one. What happened the second time I shot this? I sure did. I mean, the comments were hurtful, but yes, I definitely was staring at the dot. So what's going on when you shoot while you move? It's like, look at a spot I want to hit. Okay, my sight comes to me. Now if I flip my focus onto the sight, watch what happens. In the same direction I'm traveling, the sight's going to work its way off the target because the target blurs out behind the gun. I can't really see where the center of it is. And it's just like, okay, red on brown, I guess, send. And you end up dragging shots in the direction that you are moving. So this type of thing is super common. Now, this might seem a little weird, but if you're doing that and you're not calling it, it makes me think even more that you're staring at the sight. Why is this the case? Yeah, so it's like you're not calling it. It's just like when you focus on the sight, you actually get less of an idea where the rounds go. So here's an example. Let's say I'm staring right center. If my dot's actually over here, so I'm staring at the center and my dot's off to the right, but still on the target, my perception will be that looks like a bad shot, right? Like it looks like shit. It doesn't look, you're like, oh, that thing's way over there. However, if my focus on the dot, I'll register that red is in front of brown and it looks, let's say, yeah, it's basically in the center of the brown, looks good, and you shoot. And the outcome's very different. So it sounds weird for people, but the worse you perceive your shooting to be, the more that means you're probably focused on a small spot on the target. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, any questions about either of these now? All right, let's get back to it then. Let's go shoot. Gazelle, are we doing it? Are we gazelling? All right, I'm gonna make a few examples for you. We're gonna split the target here into 4 targets, so each A zone we'll treat as its own target. I'll make a few examples for you. All right, is that anything that we liked? No, that is not what we liked. I would say over confirming everything, and then at the same time, not confirming properly for the credit cards. I think the upper A zone, the credit card, the way you want to shoot that consistently is reactively. So you're reacting to the dot. You'll see the dot like a bouncing ball, and each decision to pull the trigger is separate. When you say, like, yep, it's back where I want, then pull. A lot of people do that where they just aim the pair a lot and then still shoot a pair like that. And it's like, you're just casino style shooting, just rolling the dice. All right, let's try it again. A little bit better. Let's change orders again. What was wrong with that? Yeah, so when I drew, I just connected to the red dot on the lower A zones and then just pushed it across where I wanted instead of look at a spot, look at a spot. Now, as we get into this, I want you to be comfortable changing orders. So I'll give you an example of that. All right, so there, started on the upper A zone, lower A zone, upper A zone, lower A zone, crisscrossing around. What we're trying to get out of this drill is ingraining changes in terms of confirmation. So most of you, I'd say, when it's based on your feelings, like when you feel like it's threatening, like whatever the scenario is or whatever the shot is that you have to shoot, most of you react emotionally and just pull the trigger more or just stop everything from moving and shoot very, very slowly. Does that sound right to everyone? It's either like you're off balance, you don't like it, and you just like shoot to get through it and just like whatever, the hits are where they are, where we stop and are very deliberate. And instead, the reaction should be you're just changing conformation. Reacting to the flash of red or reacting to the dot looking like a dot for each shot that you shoot. We just want to ingrain that, and this is a good way to do it. The other thing I like about this drill, it's up close, fast shooting, so it's going to start building tension. So if you build up tension in your shoulders, you'll see that you're pushing the gun past your intended point of aim. So it might be that you're going across the lower A zones, then when you go up to the head, you're like, oh, push the gun up, and you see the sight go up over the head and come back down, just because you get tension in your shoulders. Or let's say you're building up tension in your firing hand, shooting here, and you start pushing them down into the head box with tension in your hand. That'll happen. Or you stare at the dot as you go between targets, then it just doesn't go where you want. So you can see the common errors on this just because it's close range, high speed shooting. So I do like that. Does it make sense to everybody? Okay, and on the other side, that drill's the same. We've just added no shoots. So you keep going through it. We'll keep running these. It's just going to be tougher over there, which I like. The no shoots at that distance, like 5 yards, 7 yards, do they really make it harder? No, I think they just look small and you'll be fine. It doesn't slow things down a whole lot. It's mostly just to people's perception, they don't like it. All right, any questions about any of this? Yes, sir.
What do you recommend on stuff like that? Like we previously had it where it's not really covering any A zone. Would you recommend still shifting your vision slightly away from it?
Yeah, I would look away from it because to me, I want to have lots of aggression. I don't want to be even thinking I'm going to hit the no shoot. So if you're covering up half the A zone, I'll look at the perf line or something like that just because I want to be really aggressive. We're going to finish out on these two drills. So we'll have, I don't know, maybe another hour of shooting. Like just make sure you cycle through, you get to do everything. Cool. All right, let's get to it. What do we get out of this, folks? Anything? All the things. Yes, okay. So first, the big picture, yes, you understand you need to practice. I don't think that's going to shock anybody. Yeah, you got to practice. What I'd like, think about it like this. You shot a couple of days, me watching like, hey, try this, do this, whatever. And probably some habits got exposed to you. So it was kind of like I said, if you were shooting really well, nice and tidy, it didn't really matter how good you are. It's just if you're shooting well for you, I'd be like, cool, looks good. It'd be like, that's good. If you keep doing it, it's like, all right, start going faster. And then you go faster, you start to see what's going on. All of you, I would say, have consistent habits. Like this is normal. Like I try to go faster and my firing hand does this. I try to go faster and then I stare at the dot and just push it around and my hits get imprecise. I try to run faster, move, and then I'm not stopping fluidly. I stop all fucked up like that, whatever. You all saw this, what I'm talking about. What I recommend is you make a list of those things tonight. Like whatever those 3, 4, 5, 6 habits that you have when you get pushed, the things that you do, right? Whatever they are. And then you can get rid of those habits. Now, the way that I think about training, especially for most people, they cannot go shoot every day. That's not a thing they can do. So the real training is dry fire. Now, your training should be frequent, but it doesn't need to be a long duration. And what I mean by that is about half the value you get out of practice every day is the thought process. Like when you're spinning up your practice, like for me, I have like a belt. It's like when I'm putting my belt on for dry fire, I'm thinking, what am I trying to do? And it's like you think back and you go, oh, I was having a problem doing this. Like I want to change the position of my gun when I reload. Or, oh, I want to, get my thumb more to do this, whatever. It's like, this is the thing that I want. And while I'm thinking about that, I'm recalling, experiences like this where I was shooting and it's like, yeah, I should change that habit. That's half the value you get out of your practice is just thinking about what you're even trying to accomplish. And then the other half is doing a few repetitions, of whatever exercise. Now, for the exercises we did, was there a dry fire component for them? Yeah. All of them, right? Everybody agrees. Like if you dry fired it really aggressively and trying to grip the gun right, or we're working on trigger control, you're aggressively dry firing, pressing the trigger back, you're going to see the same thing that's happening with live fire. So that's the other key is think about what habit you're trying to change and then work on it in a way that actually simulates the problem. So for example, if you're the type that is staring at the dot when you transition around like this, you can see my head and the gun are connected, all right? A lot of times people realize they're doing that, like they know. And what I see them do in dry fire is like this. They're like, it's like, oh, I'm trying to get my eyes out in front of the gun. That's what I'm trying to do. Now, what's the problem with that I was just doing? Yeah, it's like you're watching like, that's not real. That's not real speed. All right, so this is the problem that people have when you're training by yourself at home, is people don't like the way it feels. They don't like getting uncomfortable where they're doing it wrong. But I'm telling you, you got to lean into it and do it. If I need to work on getting my eyes in front of the gun, look. What speed is this? This is the speed that my eyes work. I'm going at the pace of my vision. If I'm working on movement, how fast do I move? Well, as fast as my legs go. And I'm learning to control myself at that speed. If I'm working on shooting really fast, how fast do I want to go? As fast as my finger works. And if you think about it in really simple terms like that, it's a lot easier to improve, where you just force yourself to do it it's as fast as my eyes work. That's the pace it's got to be. I'm not going to artificially slow it down to make it feel better right now. Instead, I'm going to actually try to fix the problem. So I would write down those habits that you have, and then I'd work on each one in turn for 3 to 5 minutes. That's it. Now, let's say I want to change my grip. This will be most of you, right? I've got too much pressure on my dominant hand. My support hand's not doing anything. Okay, so working on that for 3 minutes looks like this. Look at my spot, draw the gun aggressively, conscious check. Is my pressure what I want? Yes, no. Okay. Again, do it again. Check. Pressure, is that what I want? Yes or no? And you go through this. No, I don't like that one. Okay, is 3 minutes of that a lot? Yeah, 3 minutes of that doesn't sound like much, but that's a lot. If your brain's actually on it and you're sticking with it, and then you do that for a little bit, flip to the next thing. Like, oh, I want to work on transitions. Just do that for 3 minutes. Like, if you do it like this, your practice, it's very rude that they're shooting at the shooting range. If you do it like this, you can change habits in a couple of weeks. Unless you gave yourself some weird ones with a lot of training, then it takes longer. You know how that goes. Yeah. And then while you're doing that, I would consider live fire practice to be the test of your dry fire. So the drills that are set up here, they're simple drills, easy to set up. And as soon as you were shooting it comfortably, I was like, hey, go faster, right? And the idea was you wanted to see where stuff broke down, and you'd take that back with you to your dry fire. So think of training as like a loop like that. Dry fire a lot, try to change the habits. Live fire to test, see what's happening. Notice I wasn't really super judgmental about your shooting. It's like I wanted it to be good, but it wasn't like it was a horrible thing when your shooting was bad. It was mostly about understanding what is going on, right? It wasn't about criticizing, it was about analyzing. And then you analyze the habits, the things that are happening, and that feeds into your training. So that's the best advice I can give you is make a list of the habits you want to change, work at each one 3 to 5 minutes, 4 or 5 nights a week, something like that. It doesn't take much time. And then when you come out and you shoot again, you see those habits start to change. Does that make sense to everyone? Does anybody have any questions about anything we did? Yes, sir.
Just on the dry fire practice you're talking about.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you've got 4 things you want to work on, you would do 5 minutes on each of those in the same training session.
Yeah, so it'd be like a 20-minute deal. Yeah, so I mean, just whatever it was, it's each thing. And each thing you work on, here's another, I should have mentioned this. It's not about the drill, it's about what your brain is doing. Okay, so think if my brain is focused on keep correct dominant hand tension on the gun, it doesn't really matter what the drill is that I'm doing. There are some drills are better than others. Let's say I'm working at a 3 or 5 yard shooting drill where the shooting's going to come really quick. That's going to tense me up, right? But aside from that type of thing, it doesn't matter so much what the drill is. It matters what my brain is doing. My conscious mind's on the hand. to keep it doing the thing I want it to do. I'm focused on that thing. All right. What do I focus on if I go shoot a match or shoot a more complex type of drill? Yeah, you're it's not shooting. You're focused on memorize all this stuff. Okay, go there, shoot that, go there. Like, you don't have headspace for this. Yeah, it's execution based. It's like you don't have headspace for changing of your technique. But when you're practicing, you're not focused on the execution so much. You're just shooting drills or whatever, and you're focused on changing habits, whatever those are. Okay? So I break it out that way, and like make your training very, very process focused, where you're just trying to get your habits to change, and then everything else, you'll find it falls into place. All right. Well, that was good. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, can we pick up the range as we did last night for Nicole so she doesn't get in trouble?